Hello, my name is Josiane, and this presentation is about the paper Investigating Access in Socioenactive Scenarios, a case study with UbiAccess. The co-authors of the paper are Emanuel Felipe Duarte and Professor Maria Cecília Baranauskas. Our agenda covers the context, methodology, evaluation instrument, the case study with its analysis and results, and the conclusion. The context of our research. Ubiquitous computing has brought new interaction possibility. Contemporaneous technologies such as IoT, context-aware, tangible are spread all over the environment and allows a transparent interaction with the users. Our concept of access involves the approaching of the surroundings of the artifact and the person being able of making sense of the artifact's purpose. So, our problem of this research is how to provide equitable access in ubiquitous environments without discrimination. How can we allow the same access to everyone, no matter how type of special need? For this, we studied the formal standards, CLIHC2021, the latest stable version, and the universal design principles. The first one is a web-related standard, and the second one is related to the environment. The objective of the research: investigating access in socioenactive ubiquitous environments. Our first research question: are formal accessibility and universal design standards encompassing access to ubiquitous environments? And the second: what are the main challenges to evaluate access in socioenactive ubiquitous environments? Our methodology. First, we analyzed the guidelines of universal design and the guidelines and success criteria of CLIHC to verify the suitability of each one. Then, we grouped and adapted the recommendations. We named 5 areas to these recommendations, and we interpreted and adapted the needs according to the ubiquitous computing paradigm. UbiAccess is the instrument raised from these previous steps. Then, we applied it in a case study with memoção and temporário installations from the context of Socioenactive thematic project. UbiAccess is our evaluation instrument. It has 5 areas: environment, E, which deals with physical environments and their surroundings; information, I, dealing with content and information; multimedia resources, MR, covering text, audio, and video resources; personal, P, covering personal needs and preference; and finally security and privacy, SP, covering security, safety, and privacy. The universal design principles better cover security and privacy, personal, and environment. CLIHC better covers multimedia resources and information. Our instrument has 37 recommendations. Each recommendation starts with a letter, has an ID, with a letter and a number. Environment has 12 recommendations, 7 recommendations from information, 9 recommendations from multimedia resources, 5 recommendations from personal, and 4 recommendations for security and privacy. Some examples: E5, provide adequate space to make free body movements and actions. It comes from this guideline 6A from Universal Design. And multimedia resource 1, MR1, use different modes: pictorial, verbal, tactile, for redundant presentation and favoring maximum legibility of essential information. It comes from the Universal Design 4A, 4C, and 4D principles, and CLIHC 1.1.2 success criteria. Our case study context. It comes from the FAPESP Socioenactive thematic project, where we are studying and proposing the concept of socioenactive system. In summary, a tripartite coupling of physical, digital, and social, where each one influences one another in the interaction and create unique experiences. Our data from this research came from previous realized workshop before this, the beginning of this research, the Magic of Science in 2018 and an Experience in Deep Time 2019, both conducted in the Exploratory Science Museum of Unicamp, São Paulo, Brazil. Both of the workshops had an educational context, were open exhibitions, and had 15 participants. No disabled people joined the experience. Memoção is a box with 6 textures, as you can see here, and it has the intention of evoking emotion and associating them with internet memes, displayed and with the sound in the display. As you can see, a display exhibits sounds and the memes according to the touched texture. Temporário is another installation. It has a display with a camera playing an educational video about the concept of deep time, and it also had a proximity sensor. Participants' exploration influenced the playback speed changes. So as you can see, children were playing hide and seek in order to influence the playback speed. The video was playing in English language and it had Portuguese subtitles. The references are presented below. UbiAccess conformance resources. As you can see in this chart, security and privacy, personal, were full activity of conformancy. Information were full activity in Memoção. Some unconformity examples. In temporário, information 2 provided the narration of the video in the native language of the country, which hosts the artifact exhibition. And Memoção, E12, make the internet memes perceptible to blind people. We could find this applying UbiAccess. Our first research question, are formal accessibility and universal design standards encompassing access to ubiquitous environments? The standards partially encompass access to the studied scenarios. UbiAccess reviewed some conformity requirements, for instance, from Memoção, Multimedia Resource 2, provide adequate contrast between essential information and its surroundings, so color contrast for image, text, sound background volume for audio. And Temporário Pre-1 provide choice in methods of exploration. Also, the case study revealed missing covered aspects in UbiAccess. For example, in environment, we could not cover sensors, actuators, and tactile interaction sources. And in personal values or gender. For RK2, what are the main challenges to evaluate access in social and active ubiquitous environments? Evaluating the social dimension of interaction and its influences on the social and active tripartite coupling, physical, digital, and social, as I previously said. Also, covering the richness of ubiquitous interaction possibilities. For example, in temporário, the proximity sensors or the tactile interaction sources from the textures of Memoção. Our conclusions. UbiAccess is an instrument to evaluate access in ubiquitous environments. It allows the identification of access and lacks of access. Further investigations include the coverage of sensors and actuators, full body interactions, gender physiological data, social aspects. Also, CLIHC 3.0, which is under draft, and intends to cover wearables. And finally, investigations include participants with disabilities in case studies. Our acknowledgements to FAPESP, CNPq, Interrad and the workshop participants, IFSP Hortolândia. Thank you for your attention. I let my email if you want to contact me.